Hello, my networking friend. It's so good to see you today. I've got a great mini training for you. I'm super excited. This is part two of what we talked about last week. If you missed last week, no worries. You're still going to get tremendous value from today. So, welcome officially to Networking Know How and happy November. Happy November. Can you believe it's already November 1st? I can't. I really can't. I don't know where October went. Things have been incredibly full. Let me know how it is for you. Get up and chat, say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. Yes, welcome to Networking Know How. This is your weekly live training where I help give you a tip or trick that we use in our down and dirty networking community to network more stress free, something you can use for yourself. Now, if we haven't met yet, I'm Laura Morlando, the Stress Commando, and I am the founder and CEO of Down and Dirty Networking. And like I said earlier, we've got a really great part two to the discussion we were having last week. So, last week we talked about how to choose the best events that will give you the best networking payoff. So, if you missed that, go back and look for last Wednesday's video and you can check that out. But you're not going to miss anything out if you haven't watched it. Like I said, this is going to be just as powerful for you. And this is kind of the part two. It's the follow up. So you've found an amazing event that aligns with your networking personality and your intentions. Okay, now what? Now, what do you do post event to follow up? How do you do it in a more stress free way so that you're not having to spend a lot of time and energy? But where can you get the maximum benefit of your time, right? Because that's always a question. I don't really have time for this. I don't have time for this. And if you've ever said that, you're not alone. The majority of people don't have time to do the follow up of any kind of networking, especially after an event. So, we're going to dig into that a little bit. So, hey, I see people watching live. Thanks for watching. I'm glad you're here. Okay, so let's kind of dig into it. I'm going to give you three quick, simple tips that you'll be able to utilize immediately post event. Some of them might be obvious, some you might not have thought of, but are things that I'm actually using because I actually attended an event about a week and a half ago, which is what prompted this topic. How did I choose this event and know that it was 100% aligned with what I wanted? How did I know when I walked in the room that the vibrational energy was exactly what I needed, that it 100% aligned with what I wanted? And then I want to connect with these people. So, how do I do that? Even though I might have the greatest of intentions, most people do, they have great intentions, but they just seem to let life get in the way and they never follow up. So, how do we trip that cycle, change that, and try a different way? Right. Instead of trying something else, because, Yoda said it best, do or do not, there's no try. We're going to do something different. And I think you're going to love it a little bit better. I think you're going to be able to want to stick to it and get excited about actually following up. So, first up, let's talk about the two types of networking and the purposes of networking. So, first, there's traditional networking, otherwise known as transactional networking, where you exchange a lead, a referral, or you're trying to lead clients, you're trying to get a job offer, something to that effect. Then there's relational networking, which is what we call here at Down and Dirty Networking relational networking. And what we mean by that is when you're not doing anything transactional. It is about having meaningful conversations to learn from and about someone to build a lasting and authentic relationship. Now, I have said many times, and if this is your first time watching, here's what you need to understand. Even if you are pursuing traditional networking and that is what your focus is to gain leads, I would encourage you to adopt a relational networking mindset. You are going to get and attract more leads and opportunities because of the way that you show up. Focus on relationships. When you focus on building relationships and learning from someone and being more interested in them versus trying to be interesting, you're going to actually attract more opportunities. I've done this in the traditional sense. I still participate in some traditional networking, and I find this is by far the most effective approach. And it's the most fun. It allows you to not make it feel like a chore. Then there's relational networking, which is what I created and what I founded Down and Dirty Networking on. No 30-second commercials, no sales pitches, nothing of that. It's 100% relational only. Now, here's what I have found. When you really focus on relational networking, that's where things expand, just like the relational networking mindset. Now, I have yet to really see an event that's 100% relational. That's why I created Down and Dirty Networking, because it didn't exist. But there are some really epic events happening that are the best of both worlds, where there's still this encouragement and space for transactions, but based mostly on relationships. So they're probably 80% relationships, 20% transactional. And that's a really great split because usually it's the other way around. So this event that I went to actually was that event. It was by far the best way to do networking when you're having more of a transactional goal, but basing it on a relationship foundation. It was fantastic. I can't speak highly enough about it. So once you know what your personality is, and I go in deeper in the last week's video about how you identify what you gravitate more towards, what's your networking personality, so you can choose an event that has networking built in to make sure you're not going to be disappointed, you're not going to be odd man out, you're going to get the most bang for your buck, both with what you're spending financially and what you're spending time wise to actually attend the event, and then the energy of connecting. Now, when you're ready to follow up, which is the purpose of this video, so what do you do? Okay, so now you've got all of these people. How do you follow up? Well, I already said the majority of people don't do the follow up. And there's a really couple great sayings. I'm sure you've probably heard them. And if you have, go ahead and put them here in chat. We've heard the fortunes in the follow up. Be a best friend to follow up and follow through. I could not agree more with this. If you have more, put them in the chat. I agree. The follow-up is where the magic lies. That's where relationships are actually built. And it's where we have the most fun. And yet, for some reason, we all seem to avoid it. Me included, I'm guilty. This is why I'm telling you what I have found works for me so that you guys can find it, try it and make it work for you as well. Now, here's a cool stat, and I'm going to put a twist on this stat. So the twist is 80% of sales are made on the fifth and 12th contact. 80% of sales are made on the fifth and 12th contact. This is from the National Sales Executive Association. Now, if you're doing traditional networking and you're looking for a sale, it's not going to happen in that first time my name is. It's not going to happen. It's going to happen on that fifth to 12th. You're going to need to be building a relationship. And it's not 12 contacts of buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. Probably by the first to third one, people are turning off and you're repelling people. But if you're building a relationship, by the time you really get to somebody that is like, oh, I've been meaning to touch base with you. Thank you for following up with me. Yeah, let's have a conversation. So, what I want you to really hear with that stat, focus on having conversations. If the word follow up just gives you kind of dread, think about service. Think about making connections, having conversations, having connection calls. Reframe how you approach follow up so that it doesn't have the negative energy that the word follow up might have for you if that is in true fact for you. So I like to talk about connection calls. I like to have conversation calls. I feel like that is a whole lot easier. It's less stressful. As an introvert, it makes me feel less like I have to prepare something. It's a lot more organic. It's more authentic. So, tip number one, actually follow up. Call it whatever you want. Connection calls, conversation calls. You will be ahead of everybody else. Only 48% of people actually follow up. 52%. You will be part of the 52% simply by reaching out, reframing it, and calling it a conversation call or a connection call. That can be the whole difference maker for you. So number one, actually do it. Reframe it if you need to so that you can do it. I would encourage blocking off time. You don't have to do it all at once. It can be 5 minutes a day. It's super simple. I know as Lauren Orlando, the Stress Commando, I released a networking toolkit that simplified this because it's easier to do it in little bitty chunks. So if you're one that prefers batching and doing it all in one shot, then do that. Whatever you're going to be able to do consistently, whatever you love, that's the right answer. So make sure that you actually do it, reframe it, and you'll be ahead of the game. So that's step number one, actually do the follow-up or conversation call or connection call. Number two, you might want to schedule a group follow-up post-event. Now, the event that we just had, people started asking all along, hey, who's living in this area? Who's living in this area? Because they were trying to get meetups together by geography. So the event we attended was global. It was a global event. There were people from multiple countries. So here in the Dallas area, just today, the group from Dallas got together, which I thought was fantastic. And I was grateful that I was on the communication thread with everybody. Everyone created their own, hey, let's get together and let's figure out how we can meet on a routine basis, keep the energy from the event. Think about how much time this is saving. Instead of doing one at a time connection conversations, we're going to keep the energy of the event, which was a fantastic event, but we're going to now do it in a smaller way. Now, I am unable to really do in-person events at this time. So unfortunately, I couldn't participate today, but I can do virtual events. So I'm going to be working on coordinating group virtual events to get more people together. I could do one to one, but I'd rather compress time. So think about it, leverage virtual, leverage geography, and leverage the group environment to be able to connect with everybody else. And this will allow you to go deeper than if you were just saying, hey, how are you? How's the event? Have a meaningful conversation. This is where relational networking kicks in. This is what we base on. This is what you'll hear in a lot of my videos. Use the core value, talk less, question more. Ask, what was the best thing that you learned at this event? How are you implementing things? What's been the biggest obstacle since you've returned home? You had all these great intentions. What's kind of stopped you from implementing, or what's propelled you to success? It's been so powerful having these conversations. We found a group of us were feeling behind. We were feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm falling behind because we're watching these fast action takers. And so it created this other dialogue and conversation. And it actually prompted an idea for me, a tool and a resource that I could give to everybody that felt like they were behind, felt like I was feeling behind because I'm going to be a little bit slower than the average bear. But here's the thing that I've learned: slower is not bad. It's not bad. What's great, what's good is being consistent. You can go fast and stop. You can go slow and stop. That's not going to be effective. What's going to be effective is being consistent. So, regardless of your pace, whatever works for you, I have learned with my health journey that it's absolutely critical to be consistent with whatever you do. So, if I'm going to be meeting with everybody in a follow up event, I'm going to be consistent and asking them those questions, consistent with my follow up, but then asking the questions. How are you setting yourself up to be consistent with what we learned by this speaker, but this speaker? And asking more in-depth questions, more thought-provoking questions so I can learn from and about you. This is where true connection really happens, which is why I like calling them connection calls, or why I like calling them conversation calls. So follow up is step number one. You just want to do it, reframe it however you want. Or two, you want to make sure you're getting a group environment, be it virtually or in person by geography, to compress time and be able to connect with more people. You're going to feel really great about it. It's going to raise your vibrational energy. It looked like they had an amazing time today. I was super excited about that. And it was really sweet. They offered to FaceTime me in because they knew that I wasn't virtual. So I really appreciate that they were including with me. And so be inclusive. Approach these events, approach these follow-ups like you're hosting a great party and you want everyone you're treating everybody like your best friend. You may not even know them. You barely maybe exchange cards at the event. You might be going, I don't even remember if we talked together. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Treat them like they are already your best friend and you will have a very successful conversation. Okay, so step number 3, you want to make sure you show them some social media love. This is a great way to be top of mind so that they know who you are. So as you're following up with people and you're organizing all of your contacts, there's all kinds of various ways you could do it. If you'd like some of my best tips, DM me, and I'd be more than happy to give you all of the tips that I use, and maybe personalize it for you. If you just tell me specifically what you hate doing with the follow-up, especially the organization of things, say, hey, this is what I really struggle with. And then I'll be able to give you a more personalized solution that we can erase that for you once and for all. But let's talk about what I mean by social media love. So you've got all of these people. Find out as you're connecting with them on all the social channels, watch their content. If they're going live, like it, comment thoughtfully. You want to make sure you are top of mind with a lot of these people, especially when you're coming from a large event and it's hard to remember everything. Or maybe you're dealing with somebody like myself where cognitively, I may not remember. I have the best of intentions, but it's not going to be retained. Maybe if you start talking to me, I'll be like, oh, yes, I remember. But then there's going to be times it's going to fall completely out of my head. I'm not going to remember. It doesn't mean you weren't memorable. It doesn't mean I was not interested. I'm very interested, but I'm going to need you to step to me and give me some information. So guess what? I probably should do the same thing. I need to do that for other people, make it easy for them to connect with me. So social media love, showing them social media love is the easiest way to do that, to like on their comments when they're posting things. I was cheering everybody on as they were posting earlier today from the Dallas event. We've got our founders who just launched her book yesterday. I'll be going live on my profile about that. So we've been cheering all of that on. I can do all of that virtually and very easily. And people are cheering each other on as we're helping launch this new book, this new Be Seen book. That's a great connection point for all of us at this event. We were able to have common ground, wanting to support the supporter on her book launch. And so now we're getting into the excitement of things and we're connecting on a really cool level. And that's where we can show social media love. So as people are finding the book and promoting that, hey, I just got my book delivered today. I'm so excited. My pre-order book arrived. Hey, we're liking and commenting each other. And it's been really exciting to see who's commenting. And so then when I see someone comment on another person's post, I might comment to that post, to that comment. The idea is to be as thoughtful as possible and treat it like a conversation. So just like you're treating step number two, like you're following up and you're approaching everything from a conversation, think of the social media love by having a conversation. Bypass only doing a thumbs up or only doing a heart. That's great. It's the meaningful, thoughtful comments that are going to make the difference. It's that relational networking. That's the magic ingredient that takes it to a whole new level. You're going to get really excited as you're participating and doing all of this. I know it's been fun to watch, especially with the book launch, what's been going on, and all of us getting back to our homes and people getting back across the globe and saying what they're doing. It's been very exciting. So, you get to have fun doing this. You get to control how you do this and how you can compress time. So I hope some of these tips are helpful. Pick one, pick the one that resonates most with you. But what I would encourage you is to make sure that post event, you're being consistent, doing one at a time, or maybe you're batch doing it. You will find that you will have deeper connections. You will build authentic and lasting relationships. And I believe, and I know to be true, that the stronger your relationships, the higher the trajectory of your business and your career, the higher your reputational capital based on the strength of the relationships you've built in your network. And when you have gone to an event and you've made that expense of time and money and energy, it is worth it to you to pour into these connections and develop these authentic relationships by adopting a relational networking mindset like we do here at Down and Dirty Networking. Now, our events are easy because there's really no follow. We do everything all inside our own community. We take all of the guesswork out. But what if you're doing something, you're not inside this community? What do you do? These are the three tips I would tell you to do. Make sure you're actually doing the follow up. Reframe it as a connection or conversation call. Make sure you're compressing time by getting together as a group by geography or leveraging virtual and doing virtual group connection calls. That way you're not having to do one-to-one calls. Saves you a whole bunch of time on your calendar. And it's so much more fun when you do it that way. So, hey, we're having a connection call. Hey, let's have a conversation, a group conversation call just to kind of check in. Those are so much more fun, like a check-in call or something to that effect, than, hey, let's follow up. You're more likely to do it if you just erase the word follow up, in my opinion. Let me know in chat if you agree with that. I see a bunch of people watching online. And then make sure the people that you have exchanged information with, that you're showing them some social media love. Be meaningful and thoughtful in the comments that you get. And that becomes the difference maker for you. Okay, that's all I got for this week. If you missed last week's about how to choose the right event, make sure you go back and look at that networking know-how from last week about how to choose the right event for the best networking payoffs. You'll be able to find that on any one of the platforms like you're watching now, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, or on LinkedIn. And stay tuned. I know it says World Online Networking Month back here. That was October. I can't believe it's November 1. I got to change my board. But I left this up because it's not too late to take advantage of everything we did for World Online Networking Month. And if you took advantage of it, thank you. We've had so much fun seeing the answers and connecting and engaging with everybody. But you don't have, doesn't mean it's over. Once it's on social, it's there. So you have the ability to expand your network. Go back and look for our posts. You'll see them with World Online Networking Month tag, and their questions, polls, different things that you can answer. Engage with other people in the comments, but also the questions become things you can use in your conversation and connection calls because they're different. They're different questions than, hi, my name is, what do you do? How are you? Those questions are so typical, but they do not get to a meaningful conversation. Those are kind of, I got to have something ready to say. Those tend to have a lot of stress attached to them. So I'm going to suggest you don't ask those. And here we're giving you a tool that expands your network, but also can be a tool in your toolbox when you're networking with other people or following up post event or having this conversation, connection calls or check-in calls, whatever you decide you want to call them. All right, so have fun interacting with World Online Networking Month. For those that participate, if you participated, thank you so much. I deeply appreciate you. And stay tuned for what we've got coming in November. We've got a lot of different fun things. And if you need some help overcoming the hurdle of follow up, if you still feel like you still have an obstacle that you're facing with making sure that you follow up post event and with networking in general, drop me a comment and drop me a DM. I think that's the word. Drop me a DM and I'd be happy to personalize some solutions for you. You can tell my mouth and my brain are still recovering from all the event. Like I said, it's been full. So I hope things are well with all of you. I hope things become effortless and stress free. And I go live every Wednesday afternoon between 3:30 and 5:30, somewhere in there. I go live. So stay tuned for more networking know how. And you can always go back and watch past episodes like part one of last week at your convenience. All right. Thanks so much for joining. And until next time, happy networking.